Welcome to the South Florida Saltwater Fishing Report. I'm Heath, and it's time to get into the bite. All right, folks, welcome to the show. South Florida's ultimate resource for everything local fishing. We're going to go over what's biting, who's catching it, where it's being caught. We're also going to cover your future marine forecast, your moon phase, and your tide charts. Everything you need to know to help keep you in the bite. Before we get into this, though, if you want to learn more about fishing, grow as an angler, or just see some great and exciting adventures, you can start by hitting the subscribe button and joining the South Florida Saltwater Fishing family. All right, let's get right into this. No news from NOAA or the FWC about any closures, so we're going to go right into the fishing report. People are catching not much this week. The weather, has not been real favorable, making it, kind of wishy-washy. The bite's been weird, been a little slow, but we had this moon pass this past week, so a couple of good wahoo bites. We'll show you that here. Not much to talk about this week in the way of fishing. The weather, however, should be starting to cut us a break sometime soon as we head into spring towards the end of this week. Thursday and Friday will be the spring, so hopefully that will put some smile on some anglers' faces. All right, but here we go. Let's talk about some fishing, right? This is Neo, new to the Facebook group, South Florida Saltwater Fishing Facebook group. He, obviously, I believe this is up north or on the West Coast somewhere. He's got himself a nice little flounder. And he shows 5.3 pounds. Very good. Very nice fish. Dinner in the bucket. I love me some stuffed flounder. It's an older picture of a redfish, just showing off some he's caught. So obviously, oh Lord, here we go. Bless me. Thank you. Anyway, redfish, Poisson rouge, as they call it in Louisiana, Poisson rouge, and black tip. So some good eats, some nice pictures. Again, just introducing himself to the group. Thanks for posting, Enio. All right, and now let's look at our weekly posts. Like I said, not very many posts this week. I'm not sure what it was. We got his out of the country, and he's smoking a cigar, looking out over Japan, I think. Is that what he said? So anyway, my bad. All right, task at hand, right? So let's look. We got some reef fish going on right here. Snapper buffet, right? This is from Brandon. We got lane snappers galore, some mangroves, and no yellowtails, but it's a big lane snapper right there too. Look at that thing. That thing is giant for a lane snapper. This is not a mutton snap lane. It's as big as the mangroves too. So he's got, and look, I missed that, the cobia. I thought that was part of his bucket. So he got a nice little reef haul. Snapper buffet and cobia to go. Man, hey, great catch right there. So, I've seen a couple of cobias caught in the last couple of weeks. So, don't count it out. They are kind of a springtime fish if you want to. They're hard to target here on the East Coast. They're more of a West Coast fish, but I thought they're kind of an incidental thing. But, don't be afraid if you feel that tug and your cobia. They make weird runs like that. All right, let's see. Here we go. This is Sherry trolling a Nomad DTX. Per my advice, ended up getting a dolphin. Trolling for wahoo, and they got a mahi, which is it's not to be expected. Those Nomads, they'll catch everything. They were out in 700 feet. You're targeting wahoo. You really want to be in a little shallower, but hey, out there, hey, perfect. Taco time for the mahi. Sherry, and like I said, we got some wahoo going on this week with the passing of the full moon. This is Ryan. Nice, solid double dip. Got him to the boat before the sharks got him, and we got another one here, which is a little bit more of a solid. This is Daniel. Look at that one. There you go. A hog. Great catch, right? Can't complain about that, man. They're going home with tons of meat. That's meat on the deck right there. So like I said, a couple of wahoo. The snapper bite is still kicking it. And here we got Marcelo. This fish, if you've never seen it, that is an Alfonsino. They're out jigging real deep. and he got the Alfonsino on the jig. That's a great catch. Those fish, you don't see them every day, so it's something special when you get that going on. All right, so that's all we really got for the post this week. Is what it is. Can't complain, so the fish are out there. We will shut off that screen and we'll talk. So your snappers, right? Your snappers are still biting. I know the yellowtails are there. The mutton bite is starting to pick up. Obviously, like you saw, if you go in a little shallower to that 30 to 50 range, hey, how you doing? You're gonna get your like you saw, those were the lane and the mangroves. They're in the shallower reefs. The deeper reef, 60, 70 out to 90-ish and beyond is your yellowtail area, and deeper you get the bigger muttons, right? So that's what we're looking at. Off the deep edge of the reef, the kingfish are starting to bite. I read that it was really nasty out there from a few folks, but they said there were big kings biting. So king bite starting to turn on. We got, scattered wahoo. It is gonna, we're in the past midway of March. So the wahoo are gonna, take a little bit of a break, but they will reappear again in June. Sometimes June is the best months, other times November or the springtime run for the wahoo when they pass through. But right now, you should be looking for those big females. We did have the moon pass, so you're not going to be fishing by the moon, but you can fish by the tides. Anyway, so that's about it. I've seen blackfin. The blackfin are going to start showing up chunky too. The big fat females, they'll be down deep. Live bait them, jig them up. It's more of an afternoon bite too, also as the months wane on towards June. And then those guys will kind of peter off and they'll turn back into footballs. And of course, everybody, on this side of the coast is waiting for the mahi to appear. And that time is not very far away, probably, in the later weeks of next month. We should start seeing the schools of, good sized schoolies along with the emergence of the sargasso weed. So that's what we're looking at. All right. Now let's talk about weather, right? The weather is, we just had a cold front pass yesterday and we're going to get another one. It won't be a rainy. We had a little bit of rain, right? Especially up in, let me turn on windy here real quick. We had a little bit of rain up Stewart, this area north, a little bit of flooding. It came down into the Palm Beaches and then it petered out. The one that's going to come Thursday into Friday, it's not really going to get rain. We're going to have very dry conditions, but the temperatures will drop just like they did. We'll have like one morning in the 50s Friday, and then it'll pick up. But we're going to be kind of breezy all week. And we're looking at, it's going to turn into a swell for a little bit, but it'll be a bigger swell. So you might, if you're heading out, you're going to want to watch what's going on. So let's look at this right now. Windy right now. This is our conditions. Let's look at tomorrow. This is 8 a.m., right? We got winds from the north swooping down. This is, obviously we just had the front pass, so the winds are going to go with it. And high pressure is going to return and make our wind all wonky and change directions and do whatever it wants. Now, folks, if this is your first time watching the show, I want you to know all the websites that we're going to go over, all these resources are in the description. Just click on it and it'll bring you to whatever you want. How we look at windy, right, is down here. There's a color-coded chart. It goes over. You just match the color with how many ever it is. The wind is in knots, but knots is 1.1 miles per hour, which means you're not very far off if you say right around 8 miles an hour. Now, also a cool feature, if you're on a computer, let's say you want to find out, we're in BOCA, you want to find out the wind and the direction, you just click on any specific spot and it will show you 5 knots from the north. Okay, so that's what it is. Further offshore, you'll see, you can close that out and you can click further offshore and you're at 7 knots from the northeast. So you can see where there's a wind shift, a little bit of variable. You can come up closer to St. Lucie, 7 knots from the north. Okay, that's how you work windy. Very easy to work with. And again, it changes. We're here at Tuesday. All this could change by the weekend. So this is tomorrow morning, 5 knots from the north. Not real bad, right? I know we do have a small craft advisory out there tomorrow. So Have to see what happens with that. In the afternoon, looks like the wind dies down offshore, right? You're looking at 2 knots from the northeast. Again, that high pressure is going to pass us with the passing of the front, and the wind's going to do whatever it wants. As you can see right here, we got wind from the north. You look over at the west coast, it's swooping up from the southeast. That's what it tends to do when you have a area of disturbance pass through. So close that out. Let's go to Thursday morning, 8 a.m. Winds from the southeast. Again, 5 knots from the west. So they're saying from the southwest. I've got my directions all backwards. It looks like it's going from the southwest. They're saying west. So again, the emergence of a swell should be happening starting, tomorrow afternoon into Thursday. This is Thursday afternoon. Again, that wind picks up. Look at that. That's crazy, especially up here. Down towards Miami, you're looking at wind that's 21 knots from the south. It's going to be blowing come Thursday afternoon. Let's check out Friday. And so again, remember I told you that front was going to pass through Thursday into Friday. So this is it as the front passes through. Tons of heavy wind blowing. It's coming from looks like the northwest, right? So Palm Beach area, we're looking at 18 knots from the northwest. If you're way offshore, it's 21 knots. So that's some big winds, but it's from the west, so it's going to create a swell. Again, that swell might stick around for a while. Up towards the St. Lucie area, you're looking at 16 knots from the west coast, all the way down to the Keys. Look at the Keys; they're getting the Atlantic side is on the leeward side, so the waves will be blowing away. So it might not be too bad to actually make it out to the reef, all up and down the Keys. Everglades National Park, 10,000 islands, all that stuff up into Naples is looking at a wind from the north. All right, so that's Friday morning, Friday afternoon. Again, crazy winds with these fronts. So the wind will slow down after that front has passed. Tri-County area, you're looking at around 13 knots from the north for the afternoon. But again, remember, when you've got wind, the ocean doesn't react as the wind reacts. If it picks up the ocean, it takes it a while to die down. Lower Keys looks like they are in the area of convergence right here where you see this dead spot. You've got wind coming from the northwest, wind coming from the northeast, and they meet and they kind of make a hot mess right around Marathon. All right, Saturday morning, 8 a.m., right? We got winds coming from the east. Let's look around Fort Lauderdale-ish. 5 knots from the east. Not bad Saturday morning, right? So might actually not be too crazy out there. Boynton Beach area, again, 6 knots from the east. So we'll have to check out and see what their waves are looking like, what the period between the waves is. Again, we're in a dry period right now, right? So fire hazards from out in the Everglades, obviously. When you get that west wind, you're going to smell those fires burning. Down in the Keys, come Saturday morning, they got, it's not real bad, 9 knots from the east. So, all up and down our west coast, they're on the leeward side of the wind, which means they'll have real laid down glass-like seas. But again, when you're in 3 inches of water up to a mile out, it's, the west coast is very interesting. Tampa Bay looks good. So, getting out there and fishing that bridge and doing all that stuff is looking a little fun for them. Saturday afternoon, I'm a little late there. Let's see. 5 p.m. Saturday afternoon. Southeast winds at around 9 knots. So that doesn't really change. It actually picks up as the day goes on. Into Sunday, looking at from the east, and looking in this area, Highland Beach area, 8 knots from the east. So, if anything, maybe it might be bumpy out there, but, Saturday and Sunday aren't looking too bad. The rest of the week, though, is looking fairly windy. Down into the Keys, they're looking like, they got their winds elevated a little bit on Sunday, too, 11 knots from the east. Sunday afternoon, looks like we start picking up again, right? And this is the beginning of spring. So, let's look up in the Palm Beach area, 9 knots from the east. It doesn't really change. Doesn't look like it's picking up too much during the day on Sunday. So let's head into Monday. Monday, 8 a.m. looks like we're ripping from the southeast a little bit. And again, from the south, 11 knots. This is, Fort Lauderdale, in between Fort Lauderdale and Boca. That's probably, Pompano Beach area, Oakland Park area. Down in Miami, it's the same stuff. So if we head up north, right, it looks like they're getting a little break up here in the Vero Beach to Sebastian area. And their wind is actually heading southwest. So it might be a little swelly out there. They might be able to get into some sizable water out there. I know the more north you go, the further out you got to go. It's not a sharp drop off like it is down in the Tri-County area where you head out a couple miles and you're a couple hundred feet. So they're at 5 knots from the southwest. So not too bad up there during the day. The Keys all the way from north to Key West is around low double digits in their breeze. This is Monday morning, Monday afternoon. Not much has changed. Still blowing, winds coming straight from the south. Tuesday, it looks like it shifts from the west. So 5 knots from the west. So Tuesday we'll have a wind shift, which might bring in, a swell if it hangs out. Tuesday afternoon, the wind stays from the west. And again, so when you have a west wind, the west coast, they're getting hammered with their conditions of their oceans. It's going to make the water all murky. And when that goes away, the fish will be feeding fairly good. So that's where we're at with our Tuesday. Let's look into Wednesday real quick. It's got a west wind still. So, Tuesday into Wednesday, we're looking at some fairly good conditions, low level winds. Obviously, that west wind will create a swell and make conditions starting next week look more promising. So let's get back to tomorrow morning and let's look at our wave heights, right? So tomorrow morning, obviously, we've got 5-foot waves heading from the north. So we're looking at this swell coming in right now, and we've had a swell. It hasn't been real choppy or anything out there, but it's big. Once you get out there, the closer you're inshore, they're saying it's 5 feet all the way inshore, but you just got to judge by your the inlet. So like, let me show you. If you ever want to look at like real time what it looks like, let's pull up BOCA inlet cam here, and I'll show you what it looks like as the sun is still up, so we can kind of get a good look at it. You'll want to use these resources too, because what we're looking at here with windy doesn't necessarily always tell the real story. You got to use some live footage, right? So again, they got a swell. So let me just show you real quick. Bear with me. We'll look at, this is BOCA inlet cam, right? So they're saying there's 5-foot waves out there, but I mean, are there really? Let's zoom in at our inlet, and I mean, there's a swell obviously coming up. You see some white water out there, but not much, right? So that's what we're looking at right there. So you got to, again, use your inlet cams and all your resources so that you can really get a good eye. Don't just trust Windy or WindFinder or one thing, right? All right. So back to, again, here they go. This is tomorrow morning. They're saying 5-foot waves. What are they saying right now? Right now, they're saying it's 5 foot out of BOCA. That really didn't look like 5-foot waves to me right now. So, so again, we got that swell coming in. I would suspect it's going to pick up a little bit as the front approaches Thursday and Friday. This is tomorrow afternoon. Got some light stuff in the Everglades National Park and, the West Coast always. Down in the Keys, not too bad. Looking about 2 to 3 feet. Waves coming from the east. Tri-County area, of course, they're saying, they got this swell. I would say more offshore, you're probably looking at those big swooping swells that can get up to 5 feet, but those are no problem, even in a little vessel. All right. Thursday morning. And again, here comes the push of the water from up north, which will be getting pushed by that front. as we head into Thursday afternoon. Again, still the same stuff down in Miami. As we head further down south, it's a little bit lighter, but you will see the push of the water. It's not real bad, actually. Heading into Friday, there it goes. There's our push from the front as it happens overnight. So during the, we're going to have some big seas come Friday, and then it should probably lay down for the weekend. It dissipates real quick, right? The front's not going to be very strong. It's going to have one day of cool weather, and then heading into Saturday, again, we start petering out, and we're back down to 3-foot waves from the north with a 7-second period. So you're looking at kind of, a nice little swell following this front. And Saturday afternoon looks like it's, you actually saw that shade actually get a little bit lighter. So, not too bad. Up north, let's see, Vero Beach is 2 foot from the northeast. So they're getting a swell. So it's a light swell, which is kind of nice. Into Sunday. Ooh, Sunday's looking nice. We got a 2-foot swell, 6-second northeast. So I'm saying it's going to be a swell, especially with the waves coming from the northeast. So Sunday might actually be a nice day to get out on a boat, and might pick up a little bit as the day wanes on. See, up in Palm Beach, we got 2 foot, 5-second period. Fort Lauderdale, 2 foot, 5-second period. So the period's going to shorten a little bit as the day wanes on, and we head into Monday. 2 foot at 4 seconds. Yeah, so Monday morning, the waves are going to shift from the southeast, start getting a little bumpy. 2 foot waves at a 4-second period that's choppy out there, right? All right, Monday afternoon, same stuff. Keys, lower upper Keys, 2 foot at 3 seconds. They're pretty choppy out there. That's a close period. That's up and down, rock and roll, hitting little 2 foot waves. Bigger vessel cut right through it. Smaller guys, you're gonna get wet. Up in the Boca Raton area, 2 foot at 4 seconds. Heading into Tuesday, heads down to 1 foot. So starting on Sunday, it's looking actually fairly good. It'll be a little bumpy out there come Tuesday, Monday, but heading into Tuesday, it looks like it's gonna, lay down fairly flat and be nice out there. It's Tuesday afternoon, even better. And so Tuesday's looking fairly nice out there. So let's head back to tomorrow. And like I said, we're in a dry period, so we're not going to see much in the way of rain. Let's check out our rain and thunder, right? So I'll zoom out here, right? This is tomorrow morning, dry. That's tomorrow afternoon. Thursday morning, dry. Thursday afternoon, a little bit of moisture, not much. We might see some with the front that's going to approach, which is right here. So it's if in the middle of the night you see the front right here, but it's not. It wasn't going to be like that little, momentary of rainfall we had this past Monday. Friday afternoon, dry. Saturday, dry. So you don't got to really worry about the rain gear being out on the boat. You might see a storm or two, but it's really dry conditions. Come into Monday, a little something, but that's up in there in Georgia. Monday, Tuesday. A little something passing through Tuesday, but not much. More like offshore. This is just moisture in the air. Not going to be really much going on. Into Wednesday. So, we're looking pretty good. Looking fairly dry. So, those conditions, as you head into next week, Tuesday was looking, splendid. If you're a person that doesn't like any bump in the sea, those 1 foot seas, it would be good. But Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So the rest of this week is going to be fairly breezy, and heading into the weekend, we look like we're going to be good to go. Alrighty, so let's check out WindFinder. WindFinder is the numeric version of what we just saw. Let's see if they're going to jive. And some folks like this, some folks like Windy with the graphics. It's all good. So here we are today. Tomorrow, right, we're looking at north winds shifting to the east, low, mid to high single digits, not very gusty at all. we've got that northeast swell, like I said. They're saying 4 foot, which is, you got to think of the area they're covering. So they're just saying an average. So, heading out of your inlets and stuff, I didn't see any waves that, look like they're surfable or anything. Got an 8 to 10 second period. So that's definitely a swell. Okay. Way into Thursday and Friday, right? So they're saying, 4 to 5 foot seas, but it's a swell, especially on Thursday. And the wind goes to pick up Thursday morning. The wind is dead. Right, and then it picks up in the middle of the night into the 20 plus, category with some gusty winds coming through in the middle of the night, and around midday it starts to peter off again on Friday. The swell will hang around, 4 to 5 foot seas when you've got your winds coming from the west and the northwest. So it's not going to be very. It'll be a swell. It won't be choppy. But just be careful if you head out there into that. Don't get yourself in any predicaments. Then it shifts to the northeast and more to the east come Saturday. Oops. And then we're in low double digits as the sun rises, and it stays pretty much fairly rounded out. Saturday with seas 2 to 3, lowering down a little bit to around 2 foot. 9 second period. So we've got that swell, and your wave direction is coming from the northeast. So it'll be a little bit windier, starting the mid morning into the afternoon than it will be on Saturday. But the wave heights seem to be a little bit more subdued come Sunday. Monday into Tuesday, again, same thing, 2 to 3 foot seas, but our wave changes direction, as you can see in the middle of the night. From Sunday into Monday, we start getting waves from the east to the southeast. The period is shortened from 10 seconds plus to around 5 seconds, and the waves are getting a little bit, bigger. The wind is, varies in between on a Monday, in between the mid to upper single digits, and then we have a period where it picks up a little bit and then calms down Tuesday in the morning. That's what we're looking at for our wind, right? Let's take a look at what NOAA's going to say. And NOAA really follows a big wide area from Jupiter to Deerfield. So, you got to take what they're saying about the seas with that intention too, not as the gospel. Right, so here we are. They're saying small craft advisory. You can always kind of pay attention to their small craft advisory. They're not really too far off on that. Wednesday, they're saying 5 to 10 knots, seas 3 to 5, a northeast direction, 4 foot at 9 seconds. So they're calling for the swell. Thursday, they're saying the southwest winds 5 to 10, seas 3 to 5 feet. Let's see, they're saying northeast at 12 seconds. So again, we saw that even with the coming of the front, we're going to have the swell when you've got that northeast wave direction and a long period like this, 12 seconds, you're going to have a swell going on. So, get them surfboards ready too. Sean Townsend, I know you're going to be itching to go surfing if you're in town. Friday night, east winds. And they're saying, so here they're saying something a little different than what the other two resources are saying. Saturday it says it drops off. Friday it says it picks up 5 to 7 feet. Here they're saying seas 3 to 5. They don't really give wind direction. So, but you can probably guarantee that starting Saturday into Sunday and Monday and Tuesday, it's looking like it's fairly doable, depending upon which day you have the ability to get out. Let's take a look at our moon phase. We just passed the full moon, right? That was some wahoo fishing time. Let's take a look at our moon, and then we will be able to, start getting somewhere in life. All right, moon phase. We are waning, which means we are heading towards the dark side of the moon. Waxing means we're heading towards the full moon. All right, so right now, today, we're at 84% waning. Tomorrow, Wednesday is 76%. Thursday, 67%, Friday, 58%, Saturday, 48%, Sunday 38%, Monday 28%, Tuesday 19%. Heading into next week, the latter part of the week, we will reach the new moon. So here's the deal, right? With your full moon, you can get your mackerel fishing in, right? They tend to feed better, your wahoo, your kings, all those good fish. So it's nice and bright. As the dark side of the moon approaches, your pelagic fish start to bite a little better. Your tuna, your dolphin. The snapper bite also is, I find it more productive when there is not such a bright moon out. That's just past experience. Some folks have it the exact opposite. I'm just going off of what I've figured out over the last 40 plus years. So that's what our moon's looking like. Next week with the dark moon approaching, the bait fishing will happen. That's when the guys go out and they can catch the goggle eyes, they can catch the thread fins in the cover of darkness. The bait fish don't really, the bait fish they hide under that cover of the dark moon. When the sky is illuminated, the fish can see the shadows, they can see the bait, and they pick them off, which is why your bite is a little bit slower on days where there is a the moon is brighter. All right, so that's our moon phase. Let's talk about our tide charts and get on with life. So here we go. Here is tides. So when we talk about tides, we're really talking about fishing out front of your inlets, or if you're a land-based person, you're fishing an inlet from a jetty or something like that. You need the outgoing tide. So tides running in a 12-hour cycle, 6 hours of coming in, 6 hours of going out. If you are fishing that water flow out of the inlet, you need the outgoing tide. What happens is the water flowing out of the inlet pushes out all the microorganisms, phytoplanktons, little baby shrimps, and everything you could possibly think of, and all the small bait fish come in and eat them. And then per the cycle of life, the bigger fish come in and they eat them. So that's just how this works. It's not magic. If you are fishing an inlet and the tide is coming in, you are fishing for nothing. You're not going to, if you get a bite, it's a fish that's really hungry. So you have to fish that outgoing tide, especially if you're fishing for, if you're fishing from the rocks and you're looking for the desirable fish, your snook, your snapper, all that stuff. They're going to be there when the tide is going out, especially for you folks that like to troll out in front of the inlets too. Trolling, jigging, bottom fishing, all that stuff. I know out of BOCA, there's a nice reef in about 40 feet. And if you're fishing that water flow, you've got to have that outgoing tide. So let's say for now, during this week, tomorrow, our tide as the sun rises right here around 7:30, it's not going to work. Hello from Palmetto Bay. Hey, how you doing, James? So, if you're heading out, if you're fishing from the jetty or anything in the morning and as the night falls too, you don't have it. You have the outgoing tide in the middle of the day and in the afternoon, which doesn't really work too. You got to think to fish that water flow in front of those inlets. You got to have a couple things working for you. One, you got to have the tide, and also the tide's got to be at the right time. It's got to be in the morning or in the afternoon. Fishing it in the middle of the day when all the shadows are straight up and down and the bait fish run and hide and everything scatters and disperses because of the sharks feeding, it's not going to work. So this week, is not looking pretty good until we head into Friday. Into Saturday, you'll hit the tail end of the outgoing tide, which is good. And then as the morning winds on and your tide shifts, your bite might slow down a little bit. So just pay attention to that. But as we saw, our weather will improve Monday into Tuesday. So, Sunday, you're probably looking at being right around here on your outgoing tide, which is about a little bit more than halfway through the tide pooling, which is good. Then Monday, a little bit further back and into Tuesday. So you'll be about a third of the way through your outgoing tide as the sun rises on Tuesday. Also, the same thing's going to happen as the sun sets. This is Saturday, so Sunday as the sun's setting, you'll be, a little bit more than halfway through, and so on and so forth into, it'll be around here with the tide just beginning to about a third of the way through the outgoing tide, which is what you need. So come the latter part of the weekend, early into next week, the tide for fishing those inlets and all that goodness is on your side, fishing that water flow. Other than that, it just doesn't make any sense. Go find something to do. Fish the structure, fish the deep ledge of the reef, head offshore. There's a few mahi hanging out if that's your game. So that's what we're looking at, folks. That is our whole report. And before we cut out, right, if you are on Facebook, I just want to invite you to join the South Florida Saltwater Fishing Report on Facebook, right? This is what it looks like. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like the thumbnail, right? South Florida Saltwater Fishing Report up here, minus this little blue strip you can't see because I am the administrator. Go on there. Ask to join South Florida Saltwater Fishing Report. It asks 2 questions. Very simple. What's your favorite fish to catch? Do you want to follow the rules? I make it a private group and make you answer these questions because bots have not figured out how to do that just yet, and we don't need bots picking around, looking at people's profiles and advertising stuff that you're just not interested in. Every Monday we make a post. If you post anything on the timeline between now and then, or on our Monday, catches, comments, you're guaranteed to be showcased on the show, and you always have a chance of being the thumbnail poster child for that week's live stream. It's one of the little perks. If you make a post, maybe tell something about what you did, what you were fishing with, where you caught it, how deep you were, anything. This is just fun, friendly community made for sharing a little bit of knowledge so that we can help keep everyone in the bite. Nothing super strenuous, stressful, or nothing like that. Just some good old-fashioned fishing fun. And this, the South Florida Saltwater Fishing Report Facebook page is what drives this live stream weekly directly. So if you contribute, you're helping support the cause. All right. And lastly, before we sign off, folks, if you are in the market for some fishing apparel, one of them cool UPF 50 fishing shirts, I like you to go check out our sponsor, WindRider. The description again is in the link is in the description. Just click on it, you'll see this page. What it is it's those UPF 50 fishing shirts that you see everybody, with hook and whatever, pelagic, anything. It's the same stuff. It's just got the South Florida Saltwater Fishing brand on it. You can get it on the front, you can get it on the back, you can get it with a hoodie with a gator built in, you can get it with just a hoodie without a gator like this one here, and again, logo on the front, logo on the back, many colors. They dry real quick, they're very stain resistant, and they keep you cool in the summer, keep you warm in the winter. Great stuff. I have quite a few of them, and they really get the job done. I'm telling you, the one thing that I found out that I did not know when I first started getting them was the stain resistance. We got into a school of mahi, and it looked like a slaughterhouse, and I brought the shirt home, put on some spray and wash, just to be, a little careful with it. But I mean, the amount of blood and slime that was there was ridiculous, and cleaned it up and it came out perfect. So, if you're in the market, give it a shot. Take a look at it. Sometimes they're on sale, and support the brand, folks. All right. That about does it for this week's show, folks. Like I said, the latter part of the weekend into Monday, Tuesday, looking fairly good. So hopefully we can get out and get it done, and just make some posts on that Facebook page so we can show the world who we are. All right, folks, that about does it for this episode. Till next Tuesday, South Florida Saltwater Fishing Report, going wherever the cool wind takes us.